Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Dateable AF podcast because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm a co-host, Rachel Howell, a researcher extraordinaire and a single lesbian dater.
Welcome to episode 4 of our podcast, The Queer Dating Pool. Is it really that small? Our question for you today is, do you think the lesbian dating pool is actually really small, or does it just feel that way? Why does it seem like everyone's dated everyone?
We'll bring forward some personal examples and then also some ideas about how to make that dating pool feel a bit larger.
I like it. So, Rachel, what do you think it is that makes the dating pool feel so small when you're a woman dating women?
A lot of things. I think for a lot of women, they are too strict about not wanting to date friends that overlap. I think that they put up a lot of barriers around the fact that if they know the other person and they know somebody that's dated that person, I think that the perception is that that's not okay to date. I think that they put up a lot of restrictions on themselves related to the profile of the individual that they think they can only date, that they will only be interested in. And then there is the reality of the dating pool, which we'll get into a bit more, but the reality of if you're in a smaller community, then absolutely the pool is going to be smaller. And if you're in a different age bracket, I think as we get older, then the pool is smaller as well.
That's true. I think there are a lot of different factors that actually make that number shrink. And I think, too, depending on where you're meeting people, if you go to the same places over and over again, you're likely to see the same people over and over again. I think if you are on dating apps, the feedback that I've heard is that you kind of get the same 12 people recycled over and over. And so you start to feel like, oh, maybe there are only 12 people in my dating pool.
Yeah. So I have a question about this idea of somebody being in your social circle. When if I'm looking to interview somebody for a job for my company, I would much prefer to have somebody referred to me by somebody that I know and that I like, because they can tell me a bit more about them. And if I like that person a lot, I know they would likely not refer somebody to me that they didn't feel good about.
Absolutely.
Versus me just trying to randomly choose across an app, across pictures no one knows. And I don't understand why I personally do view it this way, that I would much rather have somebody that I've met through some of my friends that I've seen interacting with, or they've maybe even dated someone I know that I have a high regard for.
Yeah, there seems to be such a stigma against dating someone that has dated someone you know. And I get it. Like, if it's your best friend's ex that they just broke up with, no, of course you're not going to date that person. But if this person had one date with an acquaintance of yours 6 months ago, why wouldn't you date them?
I have a great example of the fact that I did date a woman who had dated one of my longtime exes. And I knew her in advance. Great woman. And I knew a lot about her, and she's very dateable. And what did happen was that at the point that we decided we were going to date, then I went to this
mutual friend,
and I said, hey, and they had not dated in probably 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
So there is this question. I didn't owe her that, but I did. In some ways, if you're trying to just make sure out of respect. And I went to my friend and I said, hey, this is happening. Is this feel okay? Is there something we need to talk about? And she laughed. She laughed and said, I could care less. And good job. And I really like her. And that's a good person to date.
Yeah, absolutely. This sort of ties into something that we're going to be talking about in future episodes, but that someone being able to remain friends with their ex, I think, is in some way a green flag and not a red flag. So we can talk about that in this case, your friend still recommended this person as a dating partner, even though she didn't want to date her anymore.
Right. And I know that this does play into transparency and people really digging into their good communication skills and not being afraid to be honest. Just own it and have the conversation.
Yep. And I think in some ways it just takes mature people to be able to do that, because let's say you dated someone and it didn't go that well, and now your friend wants to date them. You might be protective of your friend and say, oh, red flags, I wouldn't date this person. But there also might be a little bit of you being butthurt and because it didn't work out with you. So then you don't want it to work out with your friend. And that's just not a very mature way of handling things. So I would say don't worry quite so much about the overlap. Again, if it's your best friend and they just broke up with the person, then no, steer clear of that. But if it's in one of your outer social circles, I think it's okay.
You remember years and years ago, Sarah, we had two good friends that were together. This is such a lesbian story. Two good friends that were together. They had broken up 20 times and gotten back together.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
Yep. No,
and
I know what you're talking about. Wait, was it Monique?
Monique and Veronica.
Yes.
Monique was dating Veronica. They'd been dating on and off forever.
Yep.
And then they finally had what they called the big breakup. This is it. I'm done with you. I'm done. And I am out. And so, and I don't want to see her again. Don't like her. Yep. And she was butthurt, to your point.
Yep.
And so we had a nice single lesbian friend who had just come out, and we set Monique up.
Yep. And I remember I do remember that. And it's like, why? Why do you care if someone else dates her? You don't want to date her anymore.
That's what she said. But obviously, I do. So, yeah, be careful about that.
But I think so the key here is communication, that everybody just needs to communicate with everybody. And if it didn't work out with you, that's okay. It's okay to wish for someone else's happiness, for them to go on and be a happy dater, even if it's not with you.
Well, if you're going to tell your friends that you need to be sure that if you're not quite over them, that you let them know you're not quite over them.
Yeah. I'm not quite ready for you to set my ex-girlfriend up with somebody yet because I'm still a little heartbroken about it. For sure. That's okay. I mean, I don't think that heartbreak gets to drag on for 5 years.
Yeah, there should be a statute of limitations there.
We'll have to come up with the exact time limit of that and let everyone know.
Otherwise, that poor person's frozen out of setups.
Yes, exactly. They can never date in this community again. That's right. Well, so let's think about some of the challenges that people face with queer dating that they may not face in the heterosexual world. One of the things that I see for women in particular is that lesbian bars don't really exist anymore in the way that they did a few decades ago.
No, and certainly whenever gay marriage was legalized, and then I think that a lot of the idea was that there was no need for specific bars, so that was one point. But the men's bars stayed alive, and they still are much more prevalent than women's bars these days. And there are some reasons. I think men have always been more frequent flyer to their bars. They're better at keeping their bars financially afloat.
Yep.
Than women.
Yeah, and that, maybe that's a stereotype, but I do think with men across the board, not just gay men, but that men go out drinking a lot. Like that's more a part of their culture. And I think women are often home kind of nesting. And I think especially as we get older, we're more likely to gather in someone's living room than we are to go out to a rave and, raise the roof until 4 a.m.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe once a quarter, we get a real desire to shake it out and dance. And we hope that we can find the place where the dancing starts no later than 8 and ends by 10, which creates...
Oh, that's so true.
It's a different problem.
That's right. Yeah. So if we go out and we're out from 8 to 10, even if we are drinking during that time, what are we going to pound back like 2 drinks max during that time? So, that kind of economics just doesn't work to keep a bar afloat. So I think that's one of the reasons is that women aren't going out, staying out for hours and just drinking and drinking and drinking. So the bar doesn't have as much revenue. And I think the other thing is that, like I said, often women seem to prefer a quieter, more intimate environment where we're actually talking to each other. That's a stereotype, but I do notice that amongst our friends, older and younger friends.
From the time that I moved to Austin, this has always been, I don't think other communities are as difficult to get into, but women that move into Austin, historically, lesbian women have talked often about how difficult it was to get in and get any traction in the lesbian community. And so it does point out a difference in communities and kind of understanding your community. So Dallas or Houston in the state of Texas, those communities have what are considered more gay-centric neighborhoods.
Yep.
And that means that there are restaurants that you might walk into on a regular basis in Montrose and Houston and likely see a lot of other gay women. Certainly, that's where more of the clubs exist. And Austin is one of the few Texas cities that just
don't have a neighborhood.
We don't have a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we never have.
And part of that is because Austin is a more open city. And so people don't feel like they have to be as segregated, which I think is a positive. But the downside is it really prevents us from building community.
It does. And there are a couple of things that have happened in Austin and that we've talked a little bit about whether or not we might want to take this on in the future, but curating some events for women. And one of those, we have a great example. The two of us had a wonderful experience when a couple of women started doing a private event once a month called Bridge Club here in Austin.
This was back in the 90s. Some of you weren't even born during those days.
And you had to be 30.
You had to be 30 to get in, so it wasn't for the young bucks. And they started this event because I think there were a lot of women in Austin at the time that it wasn't as safe to be out back then. People got discriminated against more. And so I think there were women who didn't feel comfortable just going out to the bar on a regular Saturday night, but they would feel comfortable. So it was a private event, but it was held at a bar. And they checked your ID at the door. You had to be 30 to get in. You paid a cover to get in. And then it was just this monthly event where women over 30 got together to dance. It was single women, partnered women, and it was a really, really fun time.
It was a great event. And I think the doors opened at 7 and I think it closed at 10.
Probably.
And back then we were kind of young, Sarah, and so we could have stayed out a little bit later, but it was perfect.
Yeah, it was great. And so we've talked about the idea of bringing that back, not only in the Austin community, but wherever you guys are listening from. Maybe it would be fun to do some events. So you'll have to let us know if that sounds like something that you would enjoy participating in. But as of now, I think in lots of communities, there aren't specific events catered toward women. There are galas, there are HRC events. Those are often black tie events that gay men tend to love because they get to dress up and wear a tux. And women will show up and put on a cocktail dress or put on a nice suit. I don't necessarily think it's the thing that we're all, dying to go to.
No, and HRC recognizes this, and they definitely have been exploring ways to engage their female community. And plenty of lesbians love galas.
Sure.
But we also love a different style of event. And one thing that I wanted to bring us back to is this idea of people entertaining in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked a lot about this. There's two things that happen. There is the maybe pushing our couple friends, our lesbian couple friends, to think a bit more about bringing in, if they're having dinner parties, bringing in some single people that they know that they think might enjoy meeting one another.
Yeah, not even necessarily a setup, but just to facilitate connection between people.
Exactly. And I think our friends that are coupled up, I don't think it's because they only like couple energy. I think it's just not top of the mind, and that they may have one single friend, like myself. I do a lot of activities with you and Joe.
Yep.
And I also get invited to plenty of things, and we'll get to that later about saying yes.
But it's mostly couple things that you get invited to rather than people inviting other single friends to come along too.
It is. And I actually have a lot of single friends that are in my age range right now that would love to be dating. And I have made an effort to try to connect them through casual, because I cook, and having them over for dinner. And I'm not trying to set them up. Like you said, I'm trying to supply a nice opportunity where they can meet one another.
Yeah.
And then if that happens, it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
This goes back to kind of our whole idea when we started Get Dateable, the idea of just bringing people together in person. Maybe they'll match with each other, but maybe they each know someone that the other person could match with, or maybe these single folks could become friends with other high quality single folks. So what you're talking about really is doing that on a micro level in your own home, or having other people do that in their own homes.
Yes. And I also want to put the ball back in a single folks court, because we really need to take responsibility. I challenge you to not wait for your couple friends to expose you to everything. Host people in your home.
Yeah.
And even if you don't cook, you can do a wine and cheese tasting. You can do
it's not for
right. Exactly. And just have people come over and hang out with you. And I think that we just don't do enough of that ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rachel, because as far as being invited to people's houses, I want to say that you are probably the only single friend that Joe and I have that invites us to your house. I think all of our other single friends never invite people over, which is a really interesting thing. I never thought of it until right now.
It's true. Yeah, I have a couple of other good friends. Carrie's actually very good at it and has done it for years. But you're right. When I think about most of my single friends, they do not entertain much.
Yeah. And maybe it's because it's hard to do that when you don't have a wingman helping you cook or helping you clean, or, all those things. So, but it is good food for thought, singles, that bring people over to your house, have them into your space. For one thing, I think it's great to bring energy into your space. I think that sets you up to invite the energy of a partner into your home.
It does. And you can easily find a wing woman.
Yes.
You have a good friend. When I'm cooking, and I'm really cooking for a lot of folks, Sarah is my wing woman. In many instances,
chef.
She's an excellent sous chef and a good lead chef. But I'm a dominatrix in my house. As far as let's be clear about that.
So Rachel needs a sub to be her sous chef. That's probably not, anybody else.
Hell no, it's not you.
I don't run on the back of the motorcycle. I'm driving the motorcycle.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. That's more stories on that.
Yeah, more to come. So why do you think it is that women tend to be hesitant to set up their single friends or to introduce their single friends?
We touched on that a little bit in the beginning of just worrying too much about whether or not there's overlap. But then the other piece of it, I do think, is a concern that if it doesn't work out, you're responsible for that, and that somehow that's going to come back on you.
Yeah. Like if they don't like each other or they don't match with each other, that somehow they'll hold it against you, which I don't really think that's going to happen. But if it does, everybody needs to be a little bit more mature, I think.
Well, and yes. And if people are doing that, if they are holding that against you, then the question is more about them than it is about you. And I also do think people worry about whether or not it's going to mix up their friend group or change the dynamic in the friend group.
Yep. I think that's absolutely true. I think in some ways, just going back to the idea of, is the lesbian dating pool really that small, that the expectations we have about that tend to shape our experience. I have a theory that I always talk to my clients about. I call it the red truck theory. And what I say is, if I asked you how many red trucks you saw last time you were out, what would you tell me? You'd be like, well, I have no idea. But if I said to you, I want you to count the red trucks you see next time you're out, you would see a lot more of them. Not because there are more red trucks out there, but because now you're paying attention. I think we get more of what we expect. So if you expect that the lesbian dating pool is really small and there's no one to date, I think that's probably what you're going to get. But if you have an expectation of, let's take Austin, for example, there are 1.5 million people that live in this city. And I read a statistic recently that several hundred people are moving here every single day. That sounds like a lot of people. And even if 1% of those are single lesbians, you got a lot to choose from here. And so try to shift your mindset and from thinking there's no one here, there are no single lesbians here, to wow, look at all these new people coming in. There are plenty of people here for me to find as a dating partner.
Very true. And especially a place like Austin. If you can't do it in Austin, I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of people that love living in Austin. It's a good segue into thinking about our expectations and how we put a lot of barriers around, oh, I only like this kind of person and I only like people that do this and look this way. I think that we box ourselves in.
Yeah, for sure. If you say, I only want to date a woman who's 5'10", blonde, and a Virgo, your pool's going to be pretty limited. But if you open up to, maybe those things aren't that important. Maybe what you're doing is creating barriers for yourself instead of being open to all possibilities.
And I want to bring forward this idea of being a yes girl.
Okay.
Because I do have friends that talk to me just for the sake of transparency on this. I have not been an app dater, but I have been able to date.
Yes.
And have had some very high quality dates. Mm-hmm. And that has not to sound arrogant, but that has not been a struggle for me. And I've asked you about that before. Why does this seem to be easier for me than it seems to be for a lot of women out there? And we talked about the fact that I'm a yes girl. And so if people say to me, hey, I'm going to go, my stepdaughter who's 26, I want to go to the Banks concert and it's going to be standing room only at the Small Moody. Do you want to go? I'm there with 26-year and 27-year-olds and I'm going, yes, I do.
Yeah. Because give it a shot.
I'm willing to say yes to that because it sounds fun. And it's not because I think I'm going to meet a million lesbians my age there.
Right.
But it is exposure to things. And I am exposed to lots of opportunities because of things I've said yes to that have absolutely nothing to do with me trying to ferret out the older lesbians in this community.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And it also makes you a more interesting person so that when you do meet a potential dating candidate, you've got a lot of material to talk about.
It's true. And I have these conversations on a regular basis with women or I have the conversation of, oh, it starts too late. Oh my God, Mama, get out of the house. And you don't have to do it every day, every night, but think about the things that you say no to and whether or not you say no to a lot more things than you say yes to.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
And the other thing is I get invited to things that I don't think right up front may be interesting to me. Sarah, we have our great friend. She's our straight friend. And she's super active. She's always doing stuff. And we get invited to a ton of things.
Yes.
Through our mutual friend.
Yes.
And she has a lot more straight friends than she does lesbian friends, although that is questionable. And but if I get the invitation to, hey, I'm having all my friends over and I'm going to teach them how to play Mahjong.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's like, we don't know how to play Mahjong. We've never played before. Would I have thought of doing that on my own? Maybe not. But this friend is so dynamic and charismatic and she loves Mahjong. So she makes people want to say yes to things.
It was so fun. Now I really want to learn how to be better at Mahjong. And those little tiles are so cute.
Yes, they are.
It's kind of hard, though.
It is. A little complicated.
It's a step down from bridge, I think.
I don't even know if it's a step down from bridge. I think there's a lot of thinking involved in both things.
We had a problem with their rules. I think the rules were changing on us a little bit as we went along. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience.
That's right. But I love this idea of, yes, when someone invites you to do something, even if it wouldn't have been something you thought of on your own, say yes to it. See if you like it. You might develop a new hobby that you love. You might meet somebody that's amazing in the process. So you're very good at saying yes to things and of ferreting out new things to try.
Also, I would challenge my single friends out there to think about how many times someone has said to you, hey, I have somebody that I think you might like. And think about the questions you ask about that person. Oh, are they this? No, I don't know. Are they that? I mean, do they work out on a regular basis? Do they eat cotton candy at night? Oh. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So if you are really basically weeding somebody out because you're terrified that they might not fit whatever your specific criteria is, again, you're your own worst enemy.
That's absolutely true. And what could you ask instead when someone says, I have someone I might want you to meet? What if you ask something like, oh, tell me what you think I would like about them? So let's try to frame it in a positive, assuming that your friend's not going to set you up with someone who's, an axe murderer or something.
And then they're really not your friend, or they're a little mad at you about something that
That's right.
Don't work through.
They're being passive aggressive.
That's a great suggestion, though, Sarah, is thinking about asking why you really like that person.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that made you think that I might like them? I got that question last night. I was having a drink with a friend, and I said, I really would think you might like this person. And then she leaned in and she said, what makes you think I would? What is it about her that makes you? Yeah, it was really good.
And so what were the things? Let's just talk about that. When you think of these two friends, Monique and Veronica, yes. What do you think they might like about each other?
First and foremost, that this person is they're a sexy, good-looking person,
mm-hmm.
a woman.
Okay.
And they are good at heart. I know them. And they are a solid, very good human being. And that's a great place to start right there.
Yes.
They are a good mother. They are just solid in character and responsibility. And they're sexy and hot.
Yeah.
I'm like,
what's not to love about that?
Right. And then the question I'll get is, why aren't you dating them?
Do you want to answer that for our listeners?
I did.
You might have dated her once before. Yes.
I don't remember if it was Veronica or Monique.
Hard to say, but one of them for sure.
In all seriousness, I was not reticent to say that. And I was very clear that, and we talked about this in our last episode, I think, but just because you're not a fit with somebody doesn't mean they aren't a great potential date.
Absolutely. And so you actually really liked this woman. You thought she was fantastic, and she just wasn't a match for you, but now you have a single friend that you think might like her.
And I think we're suspicious. It's like, no, don't be so suspicious. I didn't toss it out because it was bad. No, it was excellent. This is a high quality person, and I wouldn't bring them forward if they weren't. And so when you get to know a couple of people and you think their chemistry might connect, and their energy level, and if they're humorous and fun, just because it didn't work with you, don't sideline them.
Yeah, for sure. So that actually is a great segue into something that we touched on earlier, and that is the overlap. So you dated this person
mm-hmm.
and remained friends with her because she's a good person. She just wasn't the right date for you.
Yep.
Sometimes people get bent out of shape about this, about the overlap. So let's talk a little bit about, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about this particular situation, but I know that a friend of yours got kind of mortified about the fact that there was overlap in this situation and really discouraged you from introducing this woman to your other friend.
Yes. And so we just have a lot of Moniques and Veronicas in this story.
Yes.
And that what I have currently in this community is two women that I think might really enjoy one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I am reticent to introduce them simply because some of their good friends think that would be a bad thing to do because of the fact that they dated somebody else that they liked. And it's frustrating for me. The nice thing is I actually think it, for sure, one of the women thinks it's ridiculous too. And she said, that's just stupid. We should be able to do this. I think that we as lesbians shoot ourselves in our foot because we're like a junior high school. I don't know the right word. What were we terrible in junior high school? Sending notes and talking about one another and doing all that silly stuff.
Just that gossipy clique kind of thing. Yep. I think that's so true. And it's like, why are we doing that? We're better than that.
And I will honestly say that I do believe that if you have an emotional attachment that you haven't broken, and so it would feel uncomfortable to you at that point to go out with that person because they actually maybe saw an ex of yours, then that's fine. You can own your emotional attachment to that and be clear and say, I just don't think I'm ready for that because I think that's going to feel pretty uncomfortable for me. But there is nothing fundamentally wrong with that, the possibility of that meetup.
Yes, agreed. And if you are still struggling with something, hello, go to therapy. Go talk to someone about it, because you don't want to be harboring something years down the road. That's a terrible feeling.
Dr. Sarah Kyle.
1-800 call Dr.
1-800. Or maybe 1-900.
Oh, that's better. That's a throwback. I don't even think we have 1-900 numbers anymore.
I haven't tried it lately.
As an aside, I had, when I was in the dating bee years ago, a woman that I dated was a 1-900 provider. For those of you that may be too young to know what this is, it was a call-in. Back when we used to charge for long-distance calls, you would call into this number, and it was like a sexy hotline that you could have someone talk dirty to you. It's kind of like the... And now, why am I blanking on what is the website?
Why not? I don't know. I just know
OnlyFans. It was OnlyFans of the 1990s. So, call in and someone would talk sexy to you. And so this woman that I dated, who was a lesbian, was a 1-900 operator, and men would call in, and she said, I'm literally on my couch eating Cheetos and wearing sweatpants. And she put herself through college doing this.
Oh my God, I learned it.
It was great.
Did you call her and make her do it?
I couldn't afford it, girl. I think that thing was like $50 a minute or something. It was some crazy amount of money. But anyway, I don't know why I digressed into that story, but
why did she tell us?
Yeah. She's like wiping orange powder on her sweatpants from the Cheetos.
I picture it. But it brings me back to our time in San Francisco when we met the daddy girl situation, and we were both,
tell us more about that.
We're way too curious. So back to the topic at hand. So we're talking a little bit as we get close to wrapping, mind shifts, thinking about the pool being plenty big, that there is an abundance.
Yes.
And it's also not about whether there are 4,000 lesbians that meet your criteria that are available to you. It's more about quality than it is quantity.
One right person. It doesn't matter how many singles there are out there. You just need one right person. And so try to focus on that instead of thinking of there's a lack of potential candidates out there. It doesn't really matter how many potential candidates there are. You just need the right one. So trying to shift your mindset around that.
For sure. And I wish I had a penny for every time I've had friends say there are no good lesbians out there. And I say over and over again, there are plenty of high quality lesbians out there. And that what we need to think a lot about is what you need to do personally in order to put yourself out there more. And then what we need to do as a community to help each other find one another.
Absolutely. So finding your group of people and being willing to introduce your group of people to other people that you know, because they might be good friends. They might like each other as a potential dating partner. The lesbian dating pool is actually not as small as you think it is.
No, it's not. So the other takeaway is just, again, thinking about stretching yourself to do things that you have control over, that you can offer to your friends.
Yes.
To bring them together. Again, just don't be so focused on matching them. Just be focused on providing a platform, an opportunity for them to come together, and they can find one another. If we bring them together in real life, IRL.
Yep, IRL.
We let them find each other in the wilderness.
Yes, for sure. So just to conclude what we've talked about today, the first thing is don't forget to think outside the box regarding your type. If you are so specific about who you want to date, you may be missing out on some really great possibilities that fall outside of that, what you think is your type. So just stay open to who you might be drawn to or who you might be attracted to.
And exposing yourself to new people. As we mentioned, just thinking about things that you can do, whether it be saying yes or taking on hobbies, just doing things that expand your opportunities.
Yes, when you hear of something, someone invites you to something, get in the mindset of just saying yes rather than questioning it too much or thinking it's something you're not interested in. Just allow yourself to say yes to things. The other thing we want to remind you is just keep your single friends in mind. If you're single, if you're part of a couple, it doesn't matter. But when you're planning something, remember to include your single friends. Invite them to the dinner party. Invite them to the outing or the event. Just keep inviting new folks to the things that you're doing so that they get exposure to each other and they get to meet new people as well.
And then I think that maybe the last little pearl of wisdom is just stop worrying so much about the overlap. There's going to be overlap. Just deal with it.
We're all grown-ups here.
Move on.
Yes, absolutely. As always, we would love to hear your feedback about our episode. If there's a topic you would like to see us covering, we want to hear about that. We want to hear your comments and your questions and your experiences with the lesbian dating pool. The best way to get in touch with us is to send us an email. Our email is info@getdateable.com. And as I always like to remind you, the word dateable is the word date and the word able. There is an E in the middle of that word. So info@getdateable.com. We would love to hear from you. Thank you again for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex. And stay dateable
AF.